Welcome to part 1 of the TechSAge webinar focused on Disability 101 for researchers, taking a closer look at communication. In part 1, we will focus on the RERC TechSAge mission, the Tools for Life program, assistive technology, and defining disability culture. Your speakers are Carolyn Phillips and Liz Persaud with the Tools for Life program at Georgia Tech. Tons of information. We're really excited about that. If we jump to the next slide, we've got great information that we're going to share with you today on people first language. Really, as Carolyn said, focused on researchers and other professionals working on disability-related projects. We're going to dive really deep when it comes to talking about disability culture, the difference between medical and social model. We want this to be a discussion as much as it can be on the webinar, so please take advantage of the chat area on the bottom right corner. Earlier we were doing a sound check and some of you responded to us, so if you have any questions or comments throughout today's webinar, please go ahead and type that in the chat area and we'll definitely address that. We want this to be a dialogue. It's a very important subject matter all around. Definitely for me and Carolyn specifically, we love presenting this together, but we want this to be a dialogue that we can have with all of y'all, and then all of y'all will be able to learn something new and share that with the folks that you're working with on these research projects, but just other folks in the community as well. We wanted to let you know that we are actively recording today's session. Archives and handouts can be found on the Tools for Life website, and we'll actually be posting this shortly after the webinar is over today. And this is the Tools for Life website. It is www.gatfl.gatech.edu. And when you go to the website, you'll actually look on the right-hand side. We'll actually show a screenshot in just a few slides, but there's a whole section dedicated to webinars. You'll click on the webinar archives and you'll be able to access the recording and this PowerPoint shortly after today's webinar.
So we wanted to give you more information about the TechSAge RERC, Rehabilitation Engineering Research Center. Here are some vital statistics, some vital stats. This grant is funded by the National Institute on Disability and Rehabilitation Research. That's NIDR is the acronym. If you've heard NIDR, that's actually what it stands for. That's actually currently housed in the Department of Education on a federal level. They will be moving to the Health and Human Services under the ACL, which is the Administration for Community Living. But right now, this is where they're housed. The timeline for this grant, it's October 1st, 2013, so we're well into it at this point, through September 30th, 2018. So that's a 5-year grant, and we've got a lot that we're going to accomplish in that time period. The amount for this grant, it's $4.6 million, and the way that works out is $925,000 a year. So just a little less than $1 million with the Georgia cost share. So that's very good. It's very exciting to see that, and it's really exciting too because this is a grant that is different than a lot of other ones that we've seen and been a part of in the past, where it's truly interdisciplinary. We're bringing out the best of the best here when we're looking at who in our community is really making a big difference and what kind of research and development and all of those skill levels do we need. So you'll see a wide range represented here, from the College of Architecture to a wide range. IPAD is definitely involved there, and then the GTRI and Emory Center for Health and Aging is definitely a partner. And of course we're excited about this too. We've got folks over at the University of South Carolina who are also a part of this. And we just wanted to give you kind of an idea as to who our partners are. Our mission is very focused with TechSAge. It's to conduct advanced rehabilitation engineering, R&D, to prevent, minimize, or reverse the disabling effects of age-related losses and contextual factors on the independence, health, and participation of people who are aging with chronic conditions or long-term impairment. And that's a very, very specific mission. A lot of people, they think, oh, that's about aging or aging well. It's really about folks with disabilities aging well. And so very important to make that distinction there. Some of the core principles and strategies, we see that universal design as fundamental to all the efforts. And so ensuring that environments, products, services, and interfaces work for people of all ages and all abilities. Big emphasis on that and the concept of universal design. It's focused on people with long-term disability who are experiencing age-related limitations. So it's not people aging into disabilities, it's people with disabilities who are aging. Disability, and the focus here you can see is on ability, exists on a continuum, and that's a very, very important point. Everyone functions at different levels, we know that, due to personal and environmental factors. We often, and you'll hear us talk about this, that it's the environment that can be the disabling factor, and we'll get into more detail about that in the fine details there. We want to make sure that you also know who we are. Liz and I actually work for Tools for Life, and we're excited, as we said, to be a partner with the TechSAge and a part of this grant. We are here to help Georgians with all disabilities gain access to and acquisition of assistive technology devices and assistive technology services, so they can live, learn, work, and play independently in communities of their choice. The youngest person that we've worked with is 4 months old. The oldest is 103. And we've done a lot in this arena of educating people, helping people understand what technology would work best for them as they're aging in place. And so we have a lot of depth in this arena.
Sure. This is a little bit more about our program. As Carolyn said, we serve all ages, all disabilities in Georgia. We serve many folks through various activities throughout the year, over 50,000 individuals, well over 50,000 individuals, and that's folks that we are really providing one-on-one, hands-on solutions to. And the way that we accomplish this is through our work with the Tools for Life network, and that consists of assistive technology resource and outreach centers, lending libraries, so individuals can try equipment before they buy it. We train them on equipment, we provide demonstrations of equipment. We also focus on reuse of assistive technology and durable medical equipment, things like wheelchairs, walkers, canes, crutches, hospital beds. And then a very important part of it that we talked about earlier is that acquisition of assistive technology is the assistive technology funding, education, assistance, and resources. So not only is it learning about assistive technology, but how can you acquire it? What's available out there to help somebody fund their assistive technology? And then again, on our website, we have a ton of different online resources, including many webinars, and this is the link again to our website.
Part of why we wanted to make sure you were aware of Tools for Life and this resource right here, that is the part of the Federal Assistive Technology Act, is because we do have our hands, our fingers on the pulse of what's really happening in the field when it comes to assistive technology and individuals with disabilities. This over 50,000 folks, that's one of those things that a lot of researchers, a lot of students get excited about when they see that number. And they'll come to us and say, gosh, you know, could I reach out to X number of folks through your network? And we've been very successful at making that happen. So know that that's one of those things we want to make sure you're aware of. The other thing that's also exciting is a lot of people, a lot of students, a lot of researchers come and they hang out in our lab and they get to meet some of the folks we work with. We have conferences, and so we're finding more and more students are coming to those. We've got a big one coming up on Friday. Over 500 folks will be here for our GATE conference, which is all focused on technology, and a lot of students are helping out with that. This is just a map of our network, so you have an idea of where these access points are. And this is our website, which is really a solution website. It's all about finding the technology you need. It's finding apps. It's a connection to our entryway to the webinars. And just know that this resource is here. If you want to come visit us, you are more than welcome, and you can schedule a tour. That button has been highlighted. Liz did that down here on the lower left-hand side of our screen. It's the last button, Schedule a Tour. So when we're talking about assistive technology, what we're talking about is a wide range of devices, and this is defined in the assistive technology law. It's any item, piece of equipment, product, system, whether acquired, commercially, modified, or customized, that is used to increase, maintain, or improve functional capabilities of individuals with disabilities. And when we're talking about a service, it's anything that's assisting that individual with making an informed choice about what it is that they need.
This is a great slide that we've included in many of our talks throughout the years, and it's titled Why Assistive Technology. And I think this is just very telling of the times and how advanced technology it is as quickly just evolving. So it says, for a person without a disability, technology makes things easier, which we find is so very true. It's amazing to see things like smartphones with voice activation, mobile devices. People love automatic doors. People love being able just to access a number of different things. Smart TVs, to be able to use their voice to change channels, how gaming has really changed in our society. But the truth is that for a person with a disability, technology makes things possible. I use my voice every day to help write reports, to organize our training, to work on today's webinar, to be with y'all today. I use my voice with voice dictation software on my computer, but then also the same way on my iPhone with Siri, being able to call people, text people, send emails, create documents, control apps to navigate, do a number of different things. So that's just one example of how technology that so many folks are using out there just for the benefit and ease of access, if you will, are really making things possible and helping folks with disabilities be truly independent.
And I so appreciate you bringing that up. I think it's very true when we're talking about how technology really does make the difference. And part of why we wanted to make sure you were aware of this connection with assistive technology is just like a lot of our researchers, we're looking at a problem and we're trying to figure out, well, what is that solution? And that's what we do every day in our work. I too use assistive technology. I am one of millions of folks that you would not look at me and know that I have a disability. I have depending on who you're talking to, pretty significant learning disabilities. I have dyslexia, dysgraphia, dyscalculia, and then also auditory processing. And the way that manifests, the technology that I end up using, it ends up being around 23 different types of assistive technology solutions every day just to get through my daily life, to pay my bills on time, to get to the right location. It helps me with wayfinding. It helps me with writing reports to Congress. I just finished our annual report, and part of that document, I had to listen to it with a screen reader, and then I also had to speak it in using Dragon, the same solution that Liz was just speaking to. So we wanted you to get a little bit more information as to who we are and why we're sitting here, and you'll hear even more about that as we move through this. We're serving, when we're talking about folks with disabilities, it's 1 in 5. 1 out of every 5 folks, depending on the statistic you're looking at, but 1 out of every 5 folks has a disability. Georgia has a large number of folks that actually fall within that disability community, but if you're looking at it within the United States, we're talking about over 54 million individuals.
Yes, that have disabilities that affect their ability to see, hear, communicate, reason, walk, or perform other basic life functions. I always say this, and it kind of makes me giggle a little bit, that this club, this 54 million, is a growing number because we have individuals that are aging, that are coming to us wanting to learn more about technology. How can they stay in their homes longer without having to transition into assisted living communities or nursing homes, rehab centers, things like that. And then also, just the mission of TechSAge and looking at what the goal is, individuals with disabilities that are aging. So not only are they dealing with issues that they've dealt with, say all of their life, but what are the effects of aging that are affecting that? So it's truly a growing number.
We've got some guiding principles as we're moving into this dialogue with you and conversation about language, about communication. And this is just kind of partially kind of where we're coming from. We've got another slide that we'll talk about too. But we really do believe that we are, and we're not talking about just me and Liz, we're talking about everybody who's involved in this, that we really are collectively brilliant, and we can find and create brighter futures for everybody, find those paths that we need to find. whether it's through research, whether it's through that, being in practice in the field. And we've really got to think, act, and live from a place of abundance. We've got to focus on abilities, and we also recognize that everybody has the power to make a huge difference, and that's a real honor. The other one that we wanted to make sure about that y'all were very aware of, and this is actually in public law, and I'm honored to have been a part of writing the reauthorization for some legislation and being on a committee that worked on the assistive technology reauthorization. I'm serving on a new one for that too. But this is in the law, and it says disability is natural. I want you to think about that. Disability is natural. It's a natural part of the human experience and in no way diminishes the rights of individuals to live independently, enjoy self-determination, make choices, benefit from education, pursue meaningful careers, and really enjoy full inclusion and integration into economic, political, social, cultural, and educational mainstream of society. I think that's one of those principles that we lean into all the time, and it's a pretty bold statement considering that in 1975 we still had folks that were calling legislation, using the term handicapped and terms like that, and we'll talk more about that term in particular. So we've come a long way, but it's important that it's still in legislation. You can find this in the legislation.
So here's some more things that we just want y'all to be thinking about. People with disabilities are really the largest minority group in America. As Carolyn said earlier, that's 1 in 5 individuals. This group cuts across racial, ethnic, religious, gender, and age boundaries. So anyone, no matter where you're living, no matter how old you are, no matter what your religious beliefs, your racial, gender, whatever your historical background is, you can have a disability at some point in your life and become a member of this minority group at any given time.
We're now going to talk about what is disability culture, which is very important as folks who are doing research, as folks who are learning more about this rehabilitation engineering field and rehabilitation engineering research. And we want you to really think about language, and we are open to having a dialogue about that, and we definitely will talk about this concept here of value-laden language. And we'll talk about that too and more in depth. So, but disability culture, it embodies a broad definition. And so it's 2 words if you're thinking about it. The two words, disability and culture, each have values that are put into those. And they conjure up different ideas in everybody's head. I'm saying disability to you, and you may have an idea of somebody you met when you were 6, or you may have a disability and you may be very aware of that and you're thinking, hey, disability is okay. So thinking about those things. And then, of course, culture has its own connotations. The other thing that I think is very important is that we really do all identify with more than one culture. I am very much a part of the disability community, definitely buy into the culture and all of that, but there are other cultures, other communities that I'm a part of. One of my favorite books when I was going through college, getting my undergrad, was a book called Inside Outside, and it's a good book. It's worth reading, but it talks about this, that we all are multiple, parts of different cultures and communities.
So this is one definition, and as Carolyn said, it really does have a broad perspective when we're thinking about disability culture. We could actually do many webinars, a whole series on just the idea of disability culture, but this is one definition that really stood out to us, and I'll go ahead and read this. But this is from Stephen Brown, co-founder of the Institute on Disability Culture, and this is something that he said that was published in Mainstream magazine back in 1996. But it says, people with disabilities have forged a group identity. We share a common history of oppression and a common bond of resilience. We generate art, music, literature, and other expressions in our lives and our culture infused from our experience of disability. Most importantly, we're proud of ourselves as people with disabilities. We claim our disabilities with pride as part of our identity. We are who we are. We are people with disabilities. And I really like this and appreciate it. And I know that the idea of disability culture, it's definitely important because it's important for individuals to understand just kind of the second line there, where the history is, where is that common bond of oppression or resilience, where is all of that coming from? And it's important to shed some light on that as we're talking about these important topics.
And as we're thinking about this topic and really leaning into it, and we're talking about language a little bit here, I wanted to make a point. As I disclosed to y'all, I have learning disabilities. I was born that way, right? It was not anything that happened. There was nothing really odd. It's the way my brain works. I am, like many people, twice exceptional. We have lots of things happening, and the positive and also these other struggles, and it makes us who we are. I struggle so much, and I know a lot of other people do within our disability community, about the conversation of just the word rehabilitation. So rehabilitation engineering, rehab, and we're going to talk about this in more detail, but just to think about language, because rehabilitation indicates that actually you need to be fixed, that there's something that's wrong and then you need to be fixed. And so what we're really talking about, and you'll see in this statement, is a lot of us have embraced who we are. I see the world differently, for better, for worse, right? The deaf community, those of us who are in the disability community are very aware that a lot of our friends that are in the deaf community, if they were born deaf, they do not identify necessarily as people with disabilities. They do not. There's a big D, and that's the big D deaf community that says, nope, I don't have a disability. And then there's a little d deaf community that is like, yes, I have a disability. So it's very, very interesting, and we want to make sure you're aware of those nuances, if you will. So anything you want to add to that?
I think we got it. Very important.
All right. Yes, very important indeed.
So we're going to kind of shift a little bit and talk about just, again, some of that history, but looking at the medical model and the social model. And these are just some definitions when it comes to thinking about those various models. So when it comes to defining medical model, what that means, like under the idea of medical model, is that it's what Carolyn said, we're looking at impairments or differences that should be quote unquote fixed or changed by medical or other treatments. Even when the impairment, quote unquote impairment, or differences don't cause any pain or other illness. It's just the idea of this person truly has something wrong with them, and we should wrap those treatments and other ways to fix them. And then people with disabilities are to be adapted to fit into the world as it is. That's definitely another idea that fits under the medical model. No, absolutely, yeah. So Carolyn asked me just to share a quick story, and I'm definitely happy to do this. And it's very it's a great fit into the whole idea of medical model. Of when I was younger and first diagnosed with spinal muscular atrophy, which is my official diagnosis. It falls under the family of muscular dystrophy. My parents were kind of struggling with, what do we do? Because they were just so new to the idea of disability, and as if any other parents would be just concerned and wanting to find resources and treatments and whatnot. But I remember, I think this is the story you're referring to, when my my parents were told that they should have a psychologist come out and visit us at the house just to kind of assess kind of what is going on with me, maybe just give some tips or advice on education and just, where's the best path for them to follow at that point in time. So mind you, I'm about 3-4 years old when this is happening. So I'm sure I'm just kind of playing and happy-go-lucky and just, chattering it up like I do pretty much now. And basically when this person was finished talking to me and just assessing me in my home environment, basically told my parents that I can't and won't be successful in life, and just, went into this whole thing of how I was going to have to, be dependent on them for the rest of my life. I wouldn't be able to have a job. I wouldn't, I'd be struggling in school. Friendships would be difficult to come by and all those things. And I giggle a little bit thinking about it now, because my life is completely the opposite of what he said. But he was very much in that medical model, that medical frame of mind of thinking of, here is this person who, yes, has a disability, but they have to be adapted to fit into the world as it is. And clearly his idea of the world wasn't a happy place, because he said I wasn't going to fit in at all whatsoever. But I'm definitely glad that my parents didn't listen to him, because I definitely wouldn't be here today. But it's just very telling of how just that frame of mind is, and how it's important to be thinking about the words that we choose and what we want to say. It's understanding that we all do research, and we all have to use some terminology every once in a while when we're writing notes or relaying that information, but it's important to really think about that when we're working with individuals on a one-on-one basis, because the effect on that person can last throughout their life, can really stick with them when they're adults.
Yeah, no doubt. I just went to Liz's wedding, and it was, yet another, it was one of the most beautiful weddings I've ever seen, but yet another way that you were like proving wrong that an initial evaluation in that medical model, was not necessarily seeing things the way that they really are. So, all right, so when we're talking about the medical model and disability, the emphasis really is on dependence, and what we mean by that is, that it's what Liz was referring to is, gosh, you can't do this, you can't do that. When I had my first evaluation for my learning disabilities, it was almost a 38-page, document that told everything that was wrong with me. There was very little hope looking at that document. And and it really was all about dependence. Carolyn will never be able to do XXX. So the focus is definitely on the impairment rather than on the needs of the person. And often institution is the norm where basic needs can be met. And we know that that's been around for a long time. Thankfully, a lot of that is starting to change with our new generations moving through. It's very exciting.
So when it comes to the medical model, these are just barriers that are encountered. Environmental and design barriers make it difficult to have a successful future, whether it's in work, school, just hanging out, entertainment, facilities, transportation, training, higher education, even in someone's house and their personal life, family, and social life. And all of these practices and attitudes are definitely seen as disabling the person. So as what Carolyn was saying earlier, of the environment being the disabling factor. When I don't think of myself as, I identify as a young woman with a disability, but I don't think about it every moment of every single day of my life, because I've got a job and I have a life, and now I have a new husband and I've got life happening. But it's definitely a down moment when I rolled up to a building that has stairs. Steps that you have to get into, and there's no ramp available there, or trying to open an automatic door, but the button is positioned really high, that's above my head, and I have to wait and ask someone for assistance. So that's when disability comes into a factor, when you're encountering those environments that should be universal design, because all those things benefit many people, not just individuals with physical disabilities. So thinking about it that way hopefully helps.
I participate, and I know you do too, Liz, in a lot of research projects. I've been doing that for years, probably since I was a teenager, and first, understanding that I had learning disabilities and that I thought differently. And I can't tell you how often I have gone to a to participate in a research project where I get there and it's focused on learning disabilities. And they hand me like a bunch of documents to read and sign. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that I have dyslexia and dysgraphia, and that's why I'm here. That's the whole research project. So, why am I filling all this out? I did a study at Harvard, same thing. They were doing an MRI of my brain to see if the left and right hemispheres were not as connected. That's what the hypothesis was. Sure enough, they found out that there was more connectivity than a typical brain. Sure enough, they handed me all these forms and said, okay, we need you to sign all this and fill this out, and we'll give you a minute. And I was like, if you want me to fill this out, you're going to have to read it to me, or it may take me all day if I'm doing it by myself. So that's when I feel like I have a disability. And so making sure that we're being mindful of those folks and the folks that we're working with in every way. social definition.
So when it comes to social model, this is something that makes us happier. It's something that we want everyone to move towards. Disability is caused by the way society is organized rather than by a person's impairment or difference. Views that the position of disabled people and the discrimination against us, people with disabilities, are socially created, and again, it has very little to do with that person's disability, with their impairment. And the social model looks at society and how we can restructure society to be more accepting, to be a more accepting environment, to be a more accessible environment, more open-minded, if you will. And then again, social model and disability, exploring ways of removing barriers that restrict life choices for people with disabilities. And when barriers are removed, people with disabilities can be independent, equal in society, and choice and control over their own lives, which is so unbelievably important. It's that idea of independence versus dependence, and having to do things on your own. I think a lot of people, no matter what your ability is now, no matter where you fall on that spectrum, if you will, people want to do things on their own. There's pride in that, and it's definitely okay to ask for assistance sometimes, but when it comes to running into those barriers in society every day, all day long, that can be very tiring, and it really triggers that skew of how society views folks with disabilities. So, solutions. Again, the traditional medical model did not explain personal experience of people with disabilities or help to develop more inclusive ways of living. Encourages people with disabilities to redefine what disability means to them, and it perpetuates confidence and self-esteem. When I was looking online and more at the social model, there was a great video that popped up, and if we had more time, we'd love to show it to y'all. I'll be happy to share the link of how, when this idea really came about, a lot of folks with disabilities in the video were talking about how they really kind of felt like a new lease on life. They felt like it gave them that more, that idea of confidence and a boost in their self-esteem to know that, hey, it isn't really all about me anymore. It's more of education that we have to do in our communities, in our societies, which I love doing. I love educating folks and talking to people about these ideas, but helping people to understand that so they can then have that knowledge to share it and pay it forward, if you will.